Well, hey, welcome to A Valid Answer with Scott and Marshall. We're here, when we're here? We're here on Sundays at 5 and Mondays at 4, and I just realized I didn't turn our TV on, so sorry about that. But
oh,
hey,
wow.
people are, hey, so we're looking right at the camera here, but here, let me get us started. Where were you today? I saw some pictures on Facebook. You were up in the hills or something like that? What's going on?
Yeah, I just ran up there to the Carrizo Plain, ran around, had a look at the wildflowers and the San Andreas Fault, which is really kind of cool.
It didn't just open up for you?
No, in fact, I was telling people were like, man, I sure hope it doesn't go. And I'm like, actually, this is probably the best place you could be if it did go. Because first of all, you're out in the open air. There's nothing that can fall on you. And second of all, you're at ground zero, so you get to enjoy the full experience. You know, the 30 feet of
enjoy in quotes,
yeah,
right?
Yeah,
enjoy
the
in
full
quotes.
experience. And so I just told everybody, make sure you catch it on film because that'll go viral. You know,
exactly. That's the only thing people worry about now is how they look on film, how it's going to look on the.
How do we go viral? Here we go. I'm trying to pull us up on line, and there we are. We're good. Okay, 30 seconds.
Yeah. Hey,
in.
Josh,
Right.
Thank you for joining us. Hey.
Hello.
Oh, hey, you got to turn your volume down. Gosh, amateur hour here.
Right? You know, what the heck?
Well, this is A Valid Answer. This is where a conservative, capitalist pastor and a socialist, liberal atheist get together and discuss things and talk and discuss religion and politics and all those things that are deeply rooted inside of all of us. We can't really escape them. They can't. And that's actually one of the things kind of what we're talking about. It's like, we're in existence right now. We cannot escape. Cannot escape this existence.
I didn't ask for this.
Did not ask for this. We're talking a little bit today about the morality of God creating us at all, if from your perspective, if there is a God, but just the idea of, did any of us ask to be here? So you had posted something on Facebook. You had like a quote or something like that on there, but yeah, I'm in the process.
Are you going to turn on our camera?
What's that?
I'm sorry, you're going to turn on our TV?
No, we're fine. We'll just look at our screen here.
So
we'll be fine. Yeah, we'll be fine on that.
Nothing. All right, so let me pull up my own darn profile. And here it is. It says this. I didn't ask to be created by God. I was born without my consent. And the problem is now God has me gambling to see whether I spend eternity in heaven or in hell. Mm-hmm. Wouldn't it be better to never be than to be in hell for all eternity? Using game theory, I would suggest the optimum move in life or existence is to not play at all.
Sorry, let me do the computer voice. The only winning move is not to play the game.
Exactly.
How about a nice game of chess?
Right. Let's play chess instead.
War Games. Check it out. Right. 1983.
Yeah, something like that. Young Matthew Broderick, I think.
Before he played Ferris Bueller.
That's right.
Yep.
That's right. The risk of losing is too great, and the price is eternally paid. While the reward is also eternal, the penalty is so extreme it's not worth the wager. So, to me, if God exists, his greatest mistake was creation. So, this was actually inspired. I mean, there's a number of things that come together to kind of inspire this thought. We had a discussion last, I think, on Monday or Sunday.
Yeah.
We kind of thrashed this out as a potential topic. And then we talked about the scene in The Matrix, right?
Yes.
Where the character, he's one of the villains. He's one of the lesser villains. His name is Cypher, okay? And he is sitting here in a fancy steakhouse.
He's the Judas of the story.
Right. He's sitting in a fancy steakhouse with agent...
Keep talking.
The agent, whoever the agent guy is, right? And so he's saying, look, I know that the steak is fake. I know it's not real.
The Matrix is telling me that it's juicy and delicious.
Yeah. And so he wants to go back into the Matrix.
Because he takes a bite of the steak and he says, ignorance is bliss.
Right.
I'd rather not know.
Right. So this is kind of my question to you and to any Christian or anyone who cares to answer the question.
Uh-huh.
And it is, wouldn't it be better to never be created, given the risk? Because if I lose it all. Sort of a reverse Pascal's wager.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Whereas if I'm not created, at least I never lose. Otherwise I'm gambling for a slim chance at winning and a big chance at losing.
And if I can kind of posit what you had said, I'll answer that question in just a second, Josh. I love the movie. But if I could answer if I can posit the question that you kind of said of if indeed God did create us and made us, be able to have this free choice and this ability to be able to choose wrong and get eternal damnation, eternal, torment, would that not be immoral of God to even create us at all if that was a possibility? I think that was one of the things you had posited. So I didn't want to put words in your mouth, but
when you get into morality, because for me, morality is subjective. So I can use the term immoral, but you have to understand that I'm using it from a personal subjective perspective. I don't believe or agree that there is some cosmic yardstick for morality that says this is in and this is out. It's all personal and subjective. That being said, from my personal opinion, I think it's kind of crummy. Why would he do this? It's frankly, it's sadistic.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to create, I don't know how many, 20, 30 billion people throughout all of history.
Mm-hmm.
And the vast majority of them are going to suffer in torment forever. Why would you do that? Now, I know some Christians have actually rejected the notion of eternal damnation.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't quite jive with the idea of a merciful, loving, creating God.
Yeah, but Scripture is otherwise. Even the words of Jesus is otherwise.
Mainstream Christians are like, go hell,
Yeah, no.
Well.
Not go hell, well. But it's not the words of Jesus. Jesus spoke specifically several times about hell, about eternal, about Gehenna, about but also specifically about an eternal torment. It is something that's it's in the Bible. It is there. It's something that as Christians we have to face and we have to look at and we have to sort that out in what that is. And I want to go back to what you were saying is why that creation you're considering God's act of creation, an act of sadism.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want to turn it around. I want to, put this back in your lap. How many kids do you have?
I have 2 that I know of. 2. Kidding. 2.
Into this world.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Could not the same thing be said to you?
Yeah, I think absolutely.
What's your defense?
I have no defense against that, other than ignorance at the time that they were created.
So you wish you hadn't created kids?
Well, if Christianity is true, if you're correct, then game theory would suggest I made 2 mistakes. Not that my children are mistakes. Remember, we're speaking philosophically here.
I understand that, but at the same time,
I'm letting the viewers know.
I know, but it is important to understand. Mm-hmm. Do you believe you made a mistake?
If I'm correct, if Christianity is correct, I don't think I did because I don't think Christianity is correct. Mm-hmm. I don't think there's a hell. I don't think there's a God or anything.
But even I forget all that. Just this world, that there exists the possibility that one of your children could get into a car accident and get maimed and lose a leg, and that the same thing could be said of they could live the rest of their life on this earth in some sort of torment, in some sort of the next 60 years of their life in some sort of ill-gotten way that they could look back at you and say, I never asked for this.
Mm-hmm. Well, as I explained kind of in our pre-show little review here, I mentioned that the Buddhists say all life is suffering. In fact, it's the very first noble truth. And what that means is that if you exist, you're going to experience some kind of pain, suffering, especially loss. In fact, it's the loss that causes the suffering because we form
real quick, I want to address this Scott Gaff. That's not really the type of discussion we have here. So if you don't want to, be nice and actual critical and you just want to be a troll, then bye. Anyway, go on.
Okay. So what we're talking about is, in Buddhism, the idea is that suffering is caused by attachment to things that are impermanent. And
come on, Michael.
Life is full of suffering because we attach ourselves to things that are impermanent. We attach ourselves to our children, yet we die. As children, we attach ourselves to our parents, but our parents pass along. We attach ourselves to people in relationships. We attach ourselves to material goods, and then we lose them. We lose cars, we lose houses, we lose jobs, we lose friends, we lose pets.
Had you heard of that when you were younger? All life is suffering.
Yeah.
Had you studied that before you had kids?
No, I think that's more of something I came to learn about when I was older. It was taught to me at a young age but it kind of went in one ear and out the other. I had no appreciation for it, so that my affection for philosophy is a little more recent, and I've had it for some time, probably at least maybe not quite 20 years. But I missed out on like when I took philosophy in college, it was just a prerequisite to me. It was just a checking off a box.
Yeah.
And I thought most of this stuff is ridiculous,
But at the same time, you could recognize that there was suffering in the world. You could recognize that there was the potential for suffering, even us growing up. But there was also potential for
Great
hope
joy.
and great joy.
Right.
So is the act of procreation sadistic in your eyes? In general, right now, you believe that Buddhist philosophy is correct, that all life is suffering.
Well, no. I don't think that's
the reality.
Subtotal of it.
Not the subtotal, but
the sum total. I think a portion of life is suffering, but the lows counteract with the high so that you get the full life experience. In other words, you appreciate the high because you have the low. You appreciate the gain because you suffered the loss. And without the loss, you would never appreciate the gain.
Right.
And the thing with life is temporary, and when it's over, that's it. It's over.
Okay. But even then, in your own opinion, it's still 60, 70, 80, 90 years potentially.
Okay, but I don't think that's necessarily unreasonable.
No.
I'm happy that I exist, in fact, contrary to what my original post is. My issue is the whole idea of eternal damnation, where it's eternal.
But now that's just units of measure.
Okay, but the
point I'm trying to get at is you're willing to roll the dice to procreate because it's only 60 or 70 or 80 years of really bad life. If I mess up and my child has this really horrible life, it's only for this amount of time, so it's worth the gamble. So is it just the units of measure that throw you off, that say it's not worth the gamble because of its eternity? Is that what releases you from saying that you're sadistic for procreating? Because it's just the units of measure.
Well, first of all, in Christianity, it mentions that the path is narrow and that many don't make it. The majority don't make it. Whereas in this world, we live in a world of great abundance. We live in a world where technology and other great things are developing. So you're about to make the analogy that most people in this world don't suffer? No, I'm not going to make that claim at all. Everyone suffers. 100% suffering is ubiquitous. But also joy and pleasure and happiness are also nearly ubiquitous. And so the fact is, putting a person into the world, yes, they're going to have the lows, but that will help them to appreciate the highs. And the idea is my children have more highs than lows. And if I guide them and raise them correctly and give them the tools and the resources they need, they will hopefully enjoy more highs than they will suffer lows.
Why won't you allow God to make that argument?
Because again, a majority of people are going to suffer eternal damnation.
Not if you follow. His guidance.
Why make the damnation eternal? I would rather not be born at all than roll the dice on eternal damnation, even if the odds of me going to hell were 1 in 10 or even 1 in 100. When you're talking about eternal anything, it's just the numbers. It's just the volume. Well, eternal isn't even a number. It's like infinity. It's a concept. It's not a number. Infinity is not a number. So you can't say infinity times whatever. No, infinity is a concept. There's no number of zeros you could ever write to arrive at infinity. And the same thing with this. When you're talking about eternity, now if God said, look, hell will last for, even if there was a sentence attached to each sin, well, you did this, so that's 1 year in hell, and you did that, that's 10 years in hell, whatever. That was really bad, that's 100 years in hell. If there were an end date to hell, and then at the end of the end date, you get to go to heaven, then I could probably see that. I would probably say, well, okay, that I can understand. But the whole eternal damnation thing just blows my mind.
Well, eternity doesn't compute to human beings. Like, you ever actually, you ever actually just start thinking about eternity, and then it's like all of a sudden like your brain just like, hold on. Done.
Yeah, our brains are too small to even get around that.
Yeah, to get around that.
Yeah.
Yeah, Marshall, socialists hate risks.
Well, the idea with socialism, how this dovetails with socialism, is there should be some kind of a floor to protect people from falling all the way through to the bottom so that they have a chance to bounce back. There are some people who will never bounce back. There are some people who fall through the cracks of the floor deliberately because they choose to do so. There's not a whole lot you can do about those people. But I argue that by and large, most people want to bounce back. They don't want to be under the floor. And having the floor is something they'll appreciate, and more people will benefit if we have a floor. I think the society would be better off. But we digress into a political discussion. Really, this is kind of theological here.
Right. So ultimately, it comes down to the amount of time.
That's a big part of it. I'm not going to say that if God exists, God shouldn't punish people for their sins. I like the idea that certain evil people are punished. I want good to always be rewarded. I want evil to always be punished.
But that's only if you get to define what's good and evil.
Well, yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
Right. I want, again, because it's all subjective. Yes, you're right. You're correct about that.
So if you find out that your actions are actually considered evil, do you still want evil to be punished? This is how we got on that discussion. What part of that discussion is when you were saying, why didn't God just, I'd rather just
not exist.
Well, the topic, it started with you saying, why give us free will? Like, why give us the choice to do that? And I just like,
well, isn't that sadistic? I mean, you think about Adam, right? I read you that quote from Milton.
Yeah.
Where Adam in Paradise Lost, and thank you to my friend Emilio who posted the quote under my comments thread there. And basically, I don't know if I can read the whole quote. I'm not going to worry about it.
Okay.
But, well, here it is.
You got it right there?
I think I do. Okay. It's very poetic. Remember, it's Old English here. It's Shakespearean Elizabethan English. Did I request thee, maker from my clay, to mold me, man? Did I solicit thee from darkness to promote me? And this is Adam speaking to God in Paradise Lost. So basically, in plain English, Adam is saying, dude, God, I didn't ask for any of this. Why are you putting me through all of this suffering when I didn't even ask to be created in the first place?
And I see that, but I always want to turn it back around and say, could not any child say that to their parent?
Yeah, they could, but I think as a parent, first of all, you're not talking about eternity. And second of all, the idea is as a child, you're going to have a better life than what your parents had because things scaffold, right? We've talked about this over many different shows about how the hard work and sacrifices of the parents should then be passed along and create a better life for the children.
Right.
And in principle, I think that's fantastic. I don't have an issue with that.
But I'm talking about, like, say, my sister, who is mentally retarded and physically handicapped. Could she have an argument against my parents for procreating her?
Your parents had no way of knowing that was going to be the outcome. And the odds of that being an outcome are so small.
And if they had, should they have, and if they had discovered that, because while my mom was pregnant, she found out she had rubella measles, and the doctors did tell her, your child is going to be born cerebral palsy and retarded. Do you want to have an abortion? Is that what they should have done? Is that a reasonable answer to say, we do not believe that the quality of life for this person is going to be up to our standards, so we should terminate the life?
That's a parent's decision. But I think it should be a parent's decision.
Right, but I'm saying is, who are you to say this is quality of life is good enough?
Well, I guess when you think of it, it's like, art is in the eye of the beholder, right? I, living this life, look around at the world and I see what's painted on this canvas, and I decide if this is something I want, hanging or not.
Is not my sister living the life of cipher of ignorance is bliss?
I don't know what kind of life your sister has.
But I'm just saying, a mentally retarded person who is basically an infant who has no understanding, who has no... Is that not living a life of bliss? Would it be better if we were all born that way?
It would either be better that we're not born at all, or that we are born without free will and happiness, and we're eternally happy, than to be born, suffer through this life, and then go to hell for all eternity. Anything is better than going to hell for all eternity. I mean, right?
And you don't have to.
Isn't that the whole idea? No, I get that, right?
And you don't have to.
But isn't anything better than hell for all eternity? And if that's the case, if hell for all eternity is the worst possible outcome, why would you ever even risk it? It would be better to not exist. The best thing would be to exist and make it to heaven, right? But remember, you're rolling dice on this. We're not just rolling Christian dice. There's also Islamic dice, and there's Buddhist dice and Hindu dice and dice for every single religion that's out there, because we can't be sure, at least from my perspective, which of those religions is true. And frankly, I think none of them are true. And so I don't want to play the game. But the problem is, here I am, I exist, and what if I'm wrong and there is a God, and now I'm playing a game I never asked to play? I have a huge ethical issue with that. I have a moral problem with that. It would be like me dragging you into some 1920s speakeasy as a gangster and say, all right, sit down and play, roll the dice. You know? What do you do? Here's Al Capone telling you have to gamble. What do you do?
Well, I mean, I guess it comes down to, at the very beginning, your parents are procreating you. The act of that action happening, even that act is set in motion by the choices of people. That yes, God does form you. I believe in the Bible, God's form. It says, "I formed you in your mother's womb."
Humans have made a choice. That's
but
why
humans made a choice,
right.
and that's why you exist.
Right.
So the problem is that you're facing. You want to be able to say, I don't want to roll the dice, but the fact remains, you still have to. You don't get to not play the game.
Right. Right.
You don't get to not play the game.
Right.
That is life. That is nature. That is anything. Take God out of it. Whatever bug gets procreated and hatches out of in the middle of the Amazon, and that bug gets eaten, trapped in a Venus flytrap and slowly dissolved over a period of several days and suffers through that. That's life.
Well, the bug
that's
would
nature.
die from exhaustion initially, actually, but
I'm just saying that's
long before.
Yeah, but that's nature. Nobody gets out of nature. If we take God completely out of the conversation, nobody gets out of nature.
But isn't the universe just a big mistake, though? If it's going to end up in eternal torment, why bother?
Because it didn't have to.
Why did God have to create? I mean, this is a very fundamental question that Christians do get pitched. Why did God bother to create it all? And then why did he create hell? And why does he force us all to play this game when, isn't it about free will?
Yes.
And if it's about free will, shouldn't I have the choice whether or not I even want to walk into God's casino of existence?
You don't exist until then. There is no choice because there's no existence. That's why life is, that's why pro-life is about life, is before choice. Life must be protected before choice can happen. There was no choice in existence because you weren't in existence. You being created brings you into the place where now you can have choice.
I would rather not even be given the choice.
But that's not up to you. That was never up to you. That was up to your parents. Your children's choice.
But we
was not
can
up
go
to
all
them.
the way back to Adam on this one, right?
Yeah.
Or the first whatever. But
yeah.
we'll just say Adam for consistency. We go all the way back to Adam.
Why create Adam?
Why create Adam?
For the potential of good.
Isn't God good? I mean, isn't God 100% good, 0% bad? Why would you create anything that has any risk of bad? I mean, why not just if I were God, I would just be. I'm God. I'm happy. I'm content. I'm God. I'm doing God things. I don't know what God's primordial state is.
Yeah.
But why create at all? I mean, it just blows my mind. And then create hell. Why?
Because creation is his nature. That's why we create. We create because we are made in his image. Why do we create? Why do we create anything? Why do we as human beings create anything? Why? Why do you create? Why did you procreate?
Well, because, again, I think there are advantages to, there are highs in this life. As Josh Emerson points out here, I like to believe that regardless, the highs are worth the ride. The universe experiencing itself is fine with me. So what Josh is channeling here, he's channeling Carl Sagan, who I think it was attributed to Carl Sagan.
Do you have to set up a bunch of candles to do that and kind of go, oh, sorry.
Right.
Anyway.
Ouija board, actually. But a science-based Ouija board. It's actually a periodic table. Really hard to get all the letters out. But the way that works is...
Well, that was a tangent. Anyway.
The way that works, though, is Carl Sagan explained that we are the universe come together that we are the universe experiencing itself. That, you have the Big Bang, you have the hydrogen atoms come together in stars, and you go through a few generations of heavier and heavier elements being forged in the hearts of stars, and then you get Earth forms, and then life arises on Earth, and we are literally made up of we're literally made of star stuff. We are star stuff.
We are stardust.
Right? And we've ascended to some kind of consciousness, and we are literally the universe experiencing itself. And I think that's fine. I'm okay with that. And I'm okay with the fact that when I die, I go back to dust and I no longer exist. I didn't exist before I was born, as Scott pointed out earlier in one of the comments I saw scroll by. And I haven't been inconvenienced by it, as Mark Twain once wrote, and I don't think I'll be inconvenienced after I'm gone. I'll just be gone. It'll be over. And the idea is I will have had more highs than lows in this life, and I hope the same holds true for my children. So I don't regret the fact that I exist or the fact that I created children. I don't have an issue with this. My children are not going to suffer eternal torment and damnation. And so I don't have an issue. But if you're correct, Scott, if God is real, and if God has created a place of eternal torment, I got a big issue with that. So, yeah, it's the time limit. It's the whole idea that it's eternal. I got no problem with God punishing the evildoer. I get that. I understand it. If I were God,
but you would rather he have created people without choice.
Yes, absolutely. Rather than have them end up in hell. And in fact, isn't that how he created Adam and Eve? Were they created with choice?
Yes,
initially?
absolutely.
Okay, so they had free will, they had free choice, and there was only like one thing they weren't allowed to do, right?
Yeah.
Which was eat of the fruit of the tree of knowledge. Not necessarily an apple, right?
We just said fruit, yeah.
It just says fruit of the tree of knowledge of good and evil.
Yeah, the knowledge of good and evil.
Right, the tree, yeah. Okay, so it's the tree with the fruit of knowledge of good and evil.
Yeah.
From which they were not supposed to eat.
Yeah.
And according to Milton, also Paradise Lost, the serpent
so they
walked
could
upright
have. So here's the thing. So God created them so that they could live blissfully in the matrix, as Cypher wanted.
Right.
Ignorance is bliss, without knowing
what it's like to be unplugged from the matrix.
Unplugged. Yeah.
So great.
That's how he created them to be. Is that not what you wanted him to do?
That would be wonderful. So why did God create the ability for them to mess that up? Why would he plant that tree in the garden in the first place? It's just a big trap. It's like when you tell your kids don't touch that. Well, what do you think the kids are
Why do you even have an oven in your house?
Right?
I'm saying, why do you have an oven in your house?
But why does God have to put that tree in the middle of the garden? Why have it at all? I mean, it's not like God. It's not like the tree is essential to anything that God has. We need an oven to prepare our food.
Yeah.
We actually don't need one. We have one.
Yeah.
We could live without ovens.
Okay, stove, fire, whatever.
Whatever. Okay,
Yeah.
right? But ultimately, God being God doesn't have to create a gosh darn thing.
Jeffrey, God knew they would do it all along. God knows all the possibilities and also knew there was a possibility and saw the possibility that they wouldn't choose it. And saw that existence that this would be good, and it has a potential to be good.
There could potentially be 8 billion people living in the garden.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. I don't know.
That was the original intent. In fact, also in there was the tree of life.
Mm-hmm. So why put the tree of the fruit of knowledge of good and evil in the garden at all?
I don't know.
Why not at least put a fence around it? Something. I mean, he just told him, he's like, don't eat it. And of course, the serpent, Satan, Lucifer, right? Wandering around why allow that? Here's the fallen angel Lucifer, right? Wandering around, walking upright, according to John Milton, because the serpent didn't go on its belly until it was cast out.
Yep.
And it says that so much in Genesis. Why are you letting the serpent go around beguiling Eve? Who's keeping the garden?
He put it in the hands of Adam and Eve. Wow. That's why he created to give them dominion over a planet. He gave it as a gift. This is yours to rule. You name the animals. You do this. This is your place. You have the opportunity to create something for yourself. I have created this. You now have the opportunity and the tools necessary to create for yourself. But you cannot ever choose to create for yourself if you're not given the options. If you're not given all the tools, then you cannot fully create for yourself. Are you responding online?
Yeah. Michael and Scott, both of them are actually philosophers. They're kind of trollish, but they actually do from time to time have some pretty good things to say. So they want to chime in here, so I'm inviting them to, share your argument with us, guys. They're saying that they need a determinist. I'm not sure what they mean by that. I think they could be meaning that all your decisions are theoretically predetermined because it's all about physics.
Mm-hmm.
I could be wrong about this, but basically, there is a school of thought in physics that says that if everything is based on physical laws, from the moment of the Big Bang, all of our decisions are predetermined. There is actually no such thing as free will. It's all physics. It's all particles interacting with one another in the universe.
And just somebody needs to be able to, if you had a powerful enough computer, you could predict it.
Theoretically. Right? Now, I could be wrong, but if I'm correct, I'd like you guys to chime in. If that's what you mean by determinism, I want to put your argument out there to see what Scott has to say.
Total order is as dangerous as total chaos.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Another philosopher, Tyler. Hello, Tyler. Nice to see you watching the show.
Yeah.
Again, guys, chime in. Please do. So, Scott, what do you think about that? What do you think about determinism? If I'm correct about that.
Well, there even on the Christian side, there's a version of that called Calvinism that says that God has already predetermined who the people are going to be, and it comes down to human beings applying human thought to an omnipotent, omnipresent
Creator,
being,
God.
creator, of saying, well, if God knows what's going to happen, then it happening must be His will. Simply that knowledge plus passiveness must equal predetermination and will. And again, it sidesteps the idea that God is all knowing. Yes, He does know. Not only does He know what's going to happen, by being all knowing, He knows everything that could happen. God knows all the different directions and knows that there is that we see this as this person made this decision and God saw that this person was going to make this decision. Why did He let this person make the decision? Because we only see the one string we're on, whereas God saw all of them and says, no, they could go this way. We say, but it happened this way. Yeah, in your reality, God saw all the realities, and you have a chance in every single decision, everything like that. You have a chance, and you create that reality and move forward on that string that's what you chose. People are saying like, but He saw that we're going to do this, but He also saw all the other myriad of times that you would have gone a different direction and done something else. And He wanted to give you that chance to be any one of those. But
God
further.
should have known that man would blow that chance, that whoever would blow the chance as well, right?
So you're saying that
God would know. I mean,
but God would also know that it could go this way. It could go this way. It could go good.
Is there something He doesn't know?
No.
Okay. So even though He knows it could go this way, He knows how it's really going to go.
Well, you're only thinking of your line.
Oh, you're blowing my mind here, Scott. I don't think I must not be following.
Yeah. Because in another life, you made a different decision. Who's to say that life isn't still going in some other reality? Who is to say that there isn't a reality where Adam and Eve chose right and they are living, that all of those realities are living in existence and God can see them all? How do we know that reality doesn't exist? That if He can see everything and every possibility, then every possibility can possibly be real and maybe is real right now as we exist.
Tyler mentions chaos and order are intertwined, and that is the nature of the world. Then he says, I'm not sure it's possible to create a paradise without the threat of the snake. That's an interesting thought. I'm not sure quite what to do with that. That's one of those things I have to think about. He says, I'm not sure it's possible to create a paradise without the threat of the snake. In other words, perhaps, how can you have a paradise unless there's an anti-paradise of some sort?
How can you know what good is?
Exactly.
If there isn't the rejection of evil, right. How do you as a person say I have made a good choice when there was not another choice to make?
Right. You just did what you were formed to do.
Yeah, that's just a robot.
In fact, speaking of robots, Michael posts, if a man creates a robot and gives him free will, the robot kills 1 million people. Did the man not cause that?
No, if the robot has free will,
Then the robot's responsible.
the robot
for
is
the
responsible
choice.
for its choice. So it's just, that's, we haven't created that level of intelligence yet in artificial intelligence to where it can. That's that singularity that could.
Theoretically, though, we're speaking.
But if it could, no, it's not. It's, again, it would be the choice of the individual, and if that individual is an artificial being, that crosses a whole new line. But is that? I mean, ultimately, would that not be? Again, I'm going to cross some lines with some Christians here. Would humankind creating an artificial intelligence, would that not be the ultimate result of God creating life and that life creating life beyond them? Not just procreating, but creating.
That actually happens in the movie AI by, I think, is that Spielberg?
Yeah,
AI?
Spielberg directed that. It's actually supposed to be Kubrick, but I think he passed away.
Yeah,
so then Spielberg took it over. Yeah.
Yeah, because in the movie, at the end of the movie, spoiler alert. Okay, at the end of the movie AI, the young boy is basically reactivated, if you will, by future AI, beings.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, and frankly, I actually think that's a very logical and possible evolutionary future for us, that we will eventually create self-replicating AI, and that's what's actually going to go out and populate the universe, whereas we, the organic life forms are simply, we're just not going to make it. We simply aren't durable enough to survive. And
but it's an interesting thought. I've never considered it before, and I don't know where I stand on it as far as belief and stuff like that. But would that not be the ultimate achievement of your creation, for your creation to create?
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know. That's an interesting thought.
Christian theology on that,
Yep.
And I imagine it actually goes back. You have stories like Pygmalion, where a guy creates a statue and the statue comes to life. I think that's the story. So you have these stories.
That's a good question. Actually, Josh, I'm sorry. As I understand, AI still does what it's programmed to. I guess if it's going to be called artificial intelligence, it is still just running a program. But at what point does artificial intelligence cross over into its own new order of intelligence that is no longer artificial, that it itself? And I think that's what we're talking about, Josh, not necessarily artificial intelligence that is still programming to figure out. But at some point, does that cross the line towards no longer artificial, that it is its own level of intelligence? Sorry.
Yeah,
I interrupted
this
you.
Is getting deep here.
Yeah, it is. I love this because it's like, I don't know. But when it ultimately comes down to, for me right now, is that we are here. We are in this game. And I do worry for you to not play the game. You have to. You have to. Everybody has to. We're in this game. To say the only winning move is not to play is simply, then why are you still living? Because if you were to say the only winning move is not to play, then that means you should end your life. And I'm not asking people to do that, but I'm just saying, is that not what you are saying?
I'm playing a different game, I guess. I'm playing poker. You're playing roulette. I'm playing a different game. But the idea is, when the game is over, that's it. The game is over. There's no payout. I'm not going to win, but I'm also not necessarily going to lose. The game is just over. So it's kind of like you playing at the casino for big money, and I'm playing, on, an app on my iPhone just to, hey, I got a new high score, I guess, whatever.
Yeah.
Get my name on the board. Remember that in the 80s?
I've got 1 million coins.
Yeah. So that's it, To me, I don't have an issue with that. I do have an issue, though, with what you're doing, which is there's eternal damnation, which to me is such a tremendous price to play. Why would anyone ever pick up those dice? Is it free will if someone is holding a gun to your head and forcing you to play? Because to me, that's what eternal damnation equates to. God has literally forced me with a gun to my head. You're going to play this game, and if you screw it up, you're going to go to hell for all eternity. I kind of have an issue with that.
I can see that. I don't. I suppose that was,
I'm being coerced to play.
yeah. And I suppose when it comes down to it, that situation only applies to Adam and Eve.
So,
But
being
it doesn't
coerced.
negate the situation.
Mm-hmm.
It just I'm putting it back to the original. Since then, the choice to procreate has not been in the hands of God.
Mm-hmm.
God has not been the one forcing you at the table.
I don't know.
Your
if God,
parents.
If God creates the soul and breathes life into the soul. I don't know what the theology is on this for Christians, but basically God is creating life in the womb.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's that quote in Isaiah, right, which you already mentioned.
Psalms, yeah.
Or it's in Psalms. All right. I knew you in the womb. To me, God's still kind of on the hook here.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, God could say, no, that's not going to happen, and it would not happen. Right?
Mm-hmm.
No sparrow falls without God's knowledge. I would imagine it works in reverse. Nothing is conceived without God's knowledge.
And God is like, I'm going to form you because I see all the potential good, and who are we in our limited, finite mind to understand whether or not infinitely those lives are going, that those choices are being made, that there is a reality that is happening. We see this reality, but there is another reality that people are making good choices and doing that and seeing this is the only reality we know. Mm-hmm. And we look at it and say, well, this result was bad, therefore God must be bad. Whereas God sees all of the realities and says, there is so much potential for good. I'm breathing life into you because I know the potential. You're judging, you're looking at saying, well, there's going to be more good than bad in this 70 years on this life. So I'm willing to take that chance.
I was hoping for 80, but
either way, but I'm saying you're like, you're okay. You're okay. Who is to say that the majority of the time in those we're making the right decisions, that in the creation that we're making the right, we only see the one line that we are in right now. Mm-hmm. We don't see the other lines, and maybe the majority of those are good. Mm-hmm. Is that not worth it?
So what you're saying is maybe 90% of it's good, and only 10% has to worry about the eternal damnation. So
yeah.
Okay.
Is that
still? I don't know if I want to pay that price. That's really Sophie's choice, in a way. If you're familiar with the analogy of Sophie's choice, right? The Nazi tells a woman only one of her two children can survive. The other one has to go to be put to death. How do you pick between your two kids right there? A snap decision.
Yeah.
That's a Sophie's choice. To me, that we're I don't know. I have a huge problem with God even sending one soul to damnation for all eternity, even if it's the worst example of a human being to have ever lived. Mm-hmm. To create consciousness and then torture that consciousness for eternity is a level of sadism that, frankly, I find unsettling. Mm-hmm. And so, coming to terms with that, if there were an out date, like, hey, you get out though after 100 years or 1,000 years or 1,000,000 years, but you get out. Better, I could live with. You simply stop existing. You're bad, you're evil, you don't get to go to heaven, so that when you die, you simply stop existing. It's the whole torture and punishment thing that blows my mind.
Yeah, yeah. And again, that was not created for humans. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That wasn't created for them.
Hell was not created for humans?
No, hell was created for Satan. Hell was created for the devil.
So why are humans going to hell?
Because the devil is tricking them to.
And God just allows it.
No, God is actively trying to work in their lives and people are rejecting.
But couldn't God just say, nah?
Then it's a rope. Then again, then it's not free will. Then it's not choice.
But is it free will if I'm in the game being forced to roll dice with the threat of eternal damnation? Because I'm going to hell.
It's your choice.
So I don't think it's really free will. I think maybe we have the illusion of free will. I don't know. I think this conversation's not done. Our time is
pretty much up. But man, it's been a great conversation. Tyler, is salvation in Christianity acts based? No, it is not. That is the whole thing of having a relationship with Christ. It's there's nothing you can do that's good enough. That's the other part of this. So it's not acts based. There's nothing there's nothing you could do that's good enough to be with God. Mm-hmm. because of our sinful nature, we have to become something different. We have to accept Christ into our life and repent from our sins, because there's nothing that is not, it's not just about acting right. It's not just about acting good. It's not just about doing good. It's about repenting from our bad, repenting and saying, I cannot earn this. I'm asking for your grace.
But isn't that an act? That's an action, though. It's a verb.
It's a choice.
It's a choice, and
but it's
followed
not
by a verb,
right?
If the choice itself isn't a verb, but it is, and so that is an act.
Yeah, it's an act of asking for forgiveness.
Okay, in which point that now you merit salvation, right?
It's not merit. You did not earn. You did not earn
asking for it, I'm going to get it, right? You know, the Bible says if you do this, you get it, right?
If you ask and you repent, the act of repenting, the act of saying, I can't do this, I need your grace.
But then God's going to deliver 100% of the time, right?
God's going to deliver that grace to you if you ask.
To me, that's an act.
That's fine, but you can't do anything good enough. All you can do is say, I can't
feed all the poor people.
There's nothing you can do good enough.
Save all the dogs.
Because
don't care about the cats.
Because there is just the sin that is inside of you that you're not addressing, that you yourself are overlooking. Well, it wasn't that bad, so I'm sure God's saying it's not that bad. Every sin disqualifies us. Any sin disqualifies us. We need the grace of God. So the act of asking for forgiveness, I suppose, is the act, but it's not what you do.
It's still God throwing you the lifeline and reeling you in.
Yes.
Okay, I get that.
You did not swim. You cannot swim fast enough to catch up with the ship, but you can grab the lifeboat. You can grab the ring that was thrown out to you, and I guess that is an act. But but you can't swim your way back to the ship. You have to grab, and it's thrown to everyone. So that's why it's a choice. That's why it's there. Gosh, there's so many comments. We can't. This has been great. This has been great. So appreciative of you guys interacting with us online, interacting here. It's been a wonderful conversation. Gosh, yeah. You can catch us here Sunday nights at 5, Monday afternoons at 4. Kerncast.com. Find us on Facebook, either under Kerncast or under A Valid Answer. We're going to be there, and we're going to continue having these discussions between a Christian capitalist pastor and a liberal socialist atheist for as long as we can. So until next time, this has been Scott
and Marshall. We'll see you around.
Signing out.
Thank you.